So this right here is definitely a series worth watching. Ozark season 3 review. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Listen, this season right here was insane. So many crazy stuff happened. Such intense moments. It was ridiculous the amount of crazy things that happened throughout the season. A brief overview about this series. This honestly, to me at first, I thought it might have been a cheaper version of Breaking Bad that Netflix just gave to us, but I was entirely wrong when it came to that. I definitely feel like this is a series worth watching, especially at the point in time where unfortunately, we can't go outside due to health circumstances. But since that's the case, if you want to watch something, definitely watch season 3 of Ozark. I recommend it heavily. 10 episodes, of crazy things. We pretty much have Marty Bird and Wendy Bird going through, of course, the money laundering process. That's a similarity that it has with Breaking Bad. It's a family that actually has to launder money for the drug cartel. In this case, the Navarro drug cartel. And right here, season 3 is so crazy because it gets to the point where the division is clear between Marty and Wendy. They don't really trust each other anymore as a family. It gets to the point where Marty's actually even monitoring the calls that Wendy has with the leader of the Navarro drug cartel. And it's such a crazy thing to actually see that they even have Wendy at this point in time having access to the leader and actually talking to him through the phone and not just through messages that come from Helen, which of course was the middle ground throughout season 1 and season 2 about how she always says my client wants this and wants that, and she's talking about the leader of the Navarro drug cartel. But we get to the point where pretty much Wendy actually has the opportunity to talk to him plenty of times with the phone. But when it comes to the phone calls, Marty doesn't trust Wendy at all. So he's actually monitoring those calls. And he actually ends up realizing that throughout this series, she's actually not saying the same things face to face that she's actually talking about behind his back in the phone with the leader of the Navarro drug cartel. But that's not to say that it's only Wendy the one that's not being trustworthy, because Marty's also not being trustworthy as well when it comes to the season. Pretty much the entire season, he's actually saying different things to Wendy also. And they pretty much don't trust each other as a family at this point. They're trying to actually have a solution, which they end up actually finding it to be giving the leader of the Navarro drug cartel an assurance about how his kids will have clean money in the future by actually getting a new casino and finding a way to actually end up having clean money and trying to avoid the money laundering process for those kids of him in the future. So that's the solution that they actually try to give to him, and he actually agrees with it. Helen agrees with it. That's what they're trying to go for. But they have this crazy experience to actually try to get that casino, because the family that owns that, it's a couple, an old couple. They don't want to actually sell the casino, so they don't want to sell it to Marty Bird and Wendy Bird. And the crazy amount of things that they actually do to try to get that casino, bro, it's insane. It was insane because they pretty much tried to actually get the machines to all pretty much malfunction to try to actually get the casino to be sold to them. And it also got to the point where it was crazy because they pretty much ended up unfortunately killing the wife of the old man. I mean, he got so pissed off that he just pushed her through a cliff and she just started rolling like a snowball. Bro, I honestly just busted out laughing when I saw that scene, my guy. I know that's a very unfortunate scene, but I was not expecting that at all to happen like that, because Wendy was pretty much trying to lure this guy by telling him, your wife thinks you're a failure. People in the community think you're a failure, that you're not a good businessman. So I think it's time that if you want to actually sell the casino, you should sell it. Not try to listen to your wife that is always trying to give you these calls of actions that you should follow. Try to do something for ones that you want to do. So he's like, okay, I'm going to sell this casino. And he's pretty much talking to his wife about that, the old couple, as they're walking. And she's pretty much like, you're a failure. I should have married your brother instead. And he gets pissed off because of that, and he's like, enough. So he actually unfortunately accidentally pushes her through a cliff, and she just starts rolling like some kind of snowball, like I said previously, and she unfortunately dies. So it gets to the point where Marty and Wendy have somebody else die indirectly because they pretty much wanted to get this casino for their assurance for the Navarro drug cartel to actually work with them, to keep working with them. They end up selling that casino. The family, the guy pretty much ends up alone. That's very sad. Marty and Wendy get what they wanted, but they still want to do things differently. It gets to the point where Marty actually ends up getting kidnapped because pretty much the leader of the Navarro drug cartel doesn't trust him because he ends up finding out that he did monitor the calls. He was actually trying to listen, so he wants to know what he wants, and that's where we find out about the differences in how they actually want to work, Wendy and Marty. We also get a very, very interesting role from the brother of Wendy that we get introduced to on this season, Ben, a crazy person who goes through a lot of different mental issues. He's basically bipolar, but he goes through a lot of different emotions, and he actually falls in love with Ruth. And he didn't really know anything about this whole situation with the drug cartel, so when he finds out, since he's bipolar, he goes crazy about it. It's a lot to talk about, so my voice is just pretty much getting wasted right here. But regardless, he goes through all this crazy stuff of finding out, and he wants to actually get into the business because he's falling in love with Ruth. So he actually wants to help his family, of course, his sister, but he wants to get to spend more time with Ruth. And unfortunately, that goes pretty bad for him in this series. But even though we had him for a season, the connection was definitely very heavy right there because we did get a sensation about, we did know this guy deeply about the emotions he was going through, how many times he shared experiences with Ruth that he felt like that was pretty much the only person who knew him pretty well, because he actually didn't start to trust Wendy once again. He didn't trust his sister, given that he ends up realizing about all this crazy stuff happening with drug cartels. And honestly, it was a very interesting, probably the most interesting part of the season, because what happens at the end to him is crazy, given that in just one season he goes through this roller coaster ride of trying to help his sister, but his sister puts him on a mental facility because she pretty much doesn't want to deal with this pressure, because she has the pressure of actually trying to get a drug cartel to not pretty much kill her family entirely. And Ben is also part of that too. But since he finds out and he's bipolar, he pretty much does different things that help and that don't help the family at that point in time. And it gets to the point where she wants to actually just put him in a mental facility to not have to deal with him. But Helen pretty much gets that done in this season. And Wendy is very sad about it. She's pretty much heartbroken because she knows that Ben is going to feel like, why did you do this to me once again? They talk about how she actually did that to him when he was 18, when he was younger, to actually get some help. But she pretty much does it basically again with the help of Helen. And Ruth, since is the person that he fell in love with, actually helps him to get out. So he goes ballistic. He goes nuts. And he actually goes to Helen's place, which once again, I'm assuming you saw this series, so Helen is the middle ground of how before in the previous seasons, Marty and Wendy actually got to talk to the drug cartel. But she's still a very essential part of this season because, of course, she's the one that's actually supervising how this whole drug cartel trying to find a clean way to actually launder the money with the casino is actually working, because it's pretty much not working at all through this entire series. From the day that they actually got it to be sold, they have such a tough time to actually get this to work. But let me first get to the whole Ben situation and not try to steer away so much. So that pretty much happens where he goes ballistic about this entire thing, and he goes to Helen's place where her daughter is as well. And obviously Helen doesn't want her daughter to actually find out about this entire thing because she doesn't know. She doesn't even know, even though she spends time with Marty and Wendy's kids. So when she ends up finding out because of Ben, because he just goes crazy and starts shouting and screaming about how your mother is pretty much involved in a drug cartel. She's not a lawyer. She's not a lawyer for Marty and Wendy. She's actually trying to help drugs over here come to the States and all this crazy type of stuff that he's talking about. Erin, which is the daughter of Helen, goes like, what is happening right here? Like, is he telling the truth? And Helen actually tells her daughter that, nah, he's a crazy guy. That's what he was in a mental facility. He just got away and he should actually still be in the mental facility because he's talking crazy. None of what he's saying is true. Of course it is, but regardless, since the easy thing to say is Ben is actually bipolar, so he's actually not saying the truth. But he is in this case. And unfortunately, that's what actually gets Ben killed in this season. And it's a very, very sad moment because even though it was for one season, this guy was actually a very, very good addition to the series. The crazy experiences and the tough moments that actually were displayed because of him, that gave it much of a elevated feeling to the series. That was the ending. Wendy had a very tough time when she lost her brother because she definitely knew that she fucked up. She tried to actually at first get him to leave, but she of course wanted to actually have some more interaction with him because at the end of the day, that's her brother. But she knew she didn't really need him at that moment in time to be in their lives. And he unfortunately stayed because he was in love with Ruth. And that's what got him killed, man. That was a very sad scene because she pretty much didn't know where to put him. And since he needs help like that, and he's pretty much doing these bipolar actions where he wants to help, but at the same time he ends up calling Helen, buying a phone in the gas station while Wendy's trying to find a place for him to actually hide. And then they actually end up monitoring where they're at because he does that. So that goes with the bipolar situation he has where he does one good thing and one bad thing. So that messes him up, and when he's like, I don't really know what to do at this point. And she actually goes on a dinner with him at night and leaves him at the place. And then as she leaves, obviously since they're monitoring him, he doesn't have anywhere to go. And the same person that killed Ruth's dad ends up killing him in the ending. Very, very sad ending, but honestly, a crazy, crazy season and a crazy, crazy series. Another element of this season is the whole dealing with the FBI when it comes to trying to actually figure out if they're actually laundering money on this casino. So they have this pregnant female that's an FBI agent actually trying to get Marty to be part of the FBI team. But Marty also wants to get her to be part of the money laundering team because they're trying to do things to actually act like, okay, they're being friendly with each other. But they have different things that they want each other to do. And of course, she ends up finding out that, okay, Marty wants me to actually be part of that team. And no, she tries to actually have her morals, to try to actually keep her integrity. But that gets to the point where nothing is being done from her side of the jobs because the way he actually tries to mess her up is to give some documents to the FBI team, through her, of course, but anonymously, to the point where she actually has to do something about these other cases. And if she doesn't, she's pretty much not doing her job. So that pretty much actually messes her up to the point where she can't really follow with the warrant she has on the casino. So that's a very, very interesting element that we had throughout the season because they're both trying to get each other on their team by some sneaky ways. And she actually gets pissed about it. So she tries to mess with Marty as well. And they don't really actually get each other to work for them. And it got to the point where even throughout a jet flight that they were actually going in to New Mexico, Wendy and Marty, they were actually getting a call from her, from the FBI agent. And Marty once again lies about where he's at because, of course, they're going to actually try to monitor and see, is he trying to actually lure the FBI agent to be part of the money laundering team, or is he actually trying to mess us up and try to work with her? But of course, he knows he can't really mess with the drug cartel, so none of that actually gets to be executed. I still thought it was a very interesting element, part of this season. I still thought it was a very good part of it entirely. I feel like this season, of course, I've talked about it a lot already. I'm already like about over 10 minutes in, but I feel like it's worth watching. I feel like the things I've said are all over the place because the season was all over the place. But I still enjoyed it a lot. Like, I definitely feel like you should watch it if you haven't. Ozark Season 3. I didn't even get to the last part. So Helen, of course, I'm assuming you've already watched this series, so you actually will be as excited as I am about this entire discussion. But since it's a spoiler review, at the end, the craziest thing about this entire season is that Helen actually gets to the place where Navarro's about to have his son be baptized, where he lives over there in Mexico. And they're pretty much with Wendy and Marty too, because they actually want to talk to each other about how to actually deal with it. Deal with actually going through this new process of the casino. And they're pretty much, Helen and Wendy and Marty are pretty much in a situation where they don't like each other anymore because of what Ben did to Helen, and pretty much screaming at her daughter and ending up finding out about what she actually works at. But they still actually have to deal with each other. So when it actually gets to the end, Helen is right next to Wendy and Marty, and they're pretty much actually saluting the leader of the Navarro drug cartel. And right at that instant, Helen actually gives a bit of a slider more to the front footsteps, and bam, she actually gets knocked out right there. Like, the guy that actually once again killed Ben and once again killed the father of Ruth ends up killing Helen. And Helen pretty much trusted that guy entirely throughout the series. Like, she really felt like that's somebody she was connected to. Well, guess what? Nah, she got blasted as well. And that actually happens. Like, she just gets a bullet right through her head, right next to Wendy and Marty. And these two are actually full of blood in their faces, bruh. These two are full of blood in their faces. Seeing Helen on the floor, very, very shocking, because they didn't think it would get to the point where even Helen is dead. But at least the Navarro leader of the drug cartel actually put them first and actually trusted them more than he actually trusted Helen at that point. So at least Wendy and Marty are still alive instead of Helen. But that was the craziest part of the entire series, because I never thought Helen was actually gonna go away. I never really thought it was gonna be actually the guy that she trusted that was doing all the killing to actually kill her as well. That goes to show you, when it comes to these type of businesses, you can't trust anybody. And Wendy and Marty once again found a way to actually deal directly with the leader of the Navarro drug cartel and not actually have Helen be an intermediate part of this whole business process. That was such a shocking scene. I honestly did not expect it. Definitely, I give this an A this entire season. Another element, very, very shortly, that I want to get to is the whole Wyatt situation. What in the world happened right there? Like, I was not expecting to see Wyatt with that old lady, Darlene. But honestly, I thought it was very, very weird at first. But that actually ended up being a very interesting aspect of this season also, because she was actually the one that ended up fighting for Ruth when she got beat up by that other guy that works with the entire process, because Ruth got beat up very badly, and that's a reason why Ben also got mad about the whole business. And then she actually also helped Wyatt basically to try to actually get a new life that doesn't actually have to deal with the whole money laundering process. But listen, she's actually somebody that also works with drugs, so basically it's still a business that is not going to be entirely legal. But Wyatt feels more comfortable right there. It was still a very interesting aspect, because I didn't see such a young person being with such an old person in this series. And it was kind of crazy, because even Ruth was like, "You're fucking her? Like, are you really fucking her at this point in time? Like, she's an old lady. She looks crazy. She's like a crackhead." That's pretty much what they were talking about. But Wyatt felt comfortable. He actually felt like he, for once, was happy. And instead of actually being hurt, he was actually in love with this old lady. An interesting aspect. A lot of crazy elements to the season. Let me know down below in the comments if you actually have watched this series, what you think about it, if you enjoy it or not. And if you haven't watched it and you heard me talk for this entirety, it's crazy, bro. I appreciate it. You probably didn't. Regardless, subscribe for some other videos. Subscribe for some other reactions. Give me your thoughts about Ozark Season 3. Let me know down below in the comments what you're actually watching, now that we can't really even go outside at this point in time, unfortunately. Maybe there's some other series I haven't actually watched. I'm actually watching Westworld as well. I don't know if I might talk about it or not, but that series is still, the Season 3 is actually still starting right here. But let me know some other series down below in the comments. Great series right here, Ozark Season 3. Jason Bateman, very good acting right here on this series. That's going to be it, man. Subscribe once again, And I'm out, bro. Take care.